Hey, I'm Shaye Koester-Wanner, and you are listening to Casual Cattle Conversations. If you are ready to explore different management practices and focus on improving your operation and the beef industry, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited you are listening. Alrighty, folks, let's take a moment to hear from one of our sponsors. At Westway Feed Products, we believe in the best way to raise beef. Our molasses-based liquid feed provides essential protein, energy, and nutrients to keep your cattle healthy and productive. It's an efficient and effective solution that saves you time and labor working with your existing forages and feed. Learn more about why Westway is the best way to raise beef at www.westwayfeed.com or call 800-800-7517. That's 800-800-7517. And that link is also in the show notes. Hey folks, it is Shaye here, and I am excited to have you back for another episode, and if you're new, welcome. Today, we are going to be visiting with Kelly and Taylor from the Red Angus Association, and we talk a lot about equal pricing for Red Angus cattle versus Black Angus cattle, and what the Red Angus Association has been doing to build relationships across segments of the industry and help the people who use Red Angus genetics get the price they deserve for raising high quality cattle. There's a lot of conversation about the packing side and especially the sustainable beef plant that is going up near North Platte, Nebraska. So that is a big topic of our conversation, but even if you are not a Red Angus producer, there are great points in this conversation about the importance of tagging programs, no matter what breed you have, reputation, building relationships with your seed stock supplier, feeders, packers, the breed associations themselves. So regardless of what breed you are, this is really an important episode to listen to if you want to learn how to add value to your calves and understand the beef supply chain a little better too. So with that, remember the best way to support podcasts is to rate and review the show and share with a friend. But let's visit with Kelly and Taylor. Well, good morning, Kelly and Taylor. It is a pleasure to have you on the podcast today, and I'm excited about this topic. It's one that always that cattle marketing, finding different value-added options, just getting better prices for high-quality calves is something that listeners always appreciate. So I'm excited to visit with you two in particular about this. But before we dive into that specific topic and the Red Angus breed and Red Angus Association, would each of you please briefly introduce yourself and talk about your role with the Red Angus Association today? Kelly, we'll start with you.
All right. Thanks, Shaye. First of all, let me say this. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and really appreciate your following and the podcast that you're putting out there. I think you have a tremendous audience, and I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to tell the world what we're doing today. My job is, my name's Kelly Smith. I am the Director of Commercial Marketing for the Red Angus Association of America. And my responsibilities predominantly are to manage our outside staff, our outside marketing team, and also, which is a great team. I feel fortunate to have those folks. We manage those as well as the value-added team and our tag program, ladies that take care of our tag program and our FCCP program, and those things. So a great group of people. Think we work great together. I feel fortunate to be managing those people and working with them and bringing hopefully some new ideas to that. As far as the other thing that I do, and I say 75 to 80% of my work day really goes into trying to focus in on trying to establish equal pricing, quite honestly, for reds versus blacks. Which we're going to talk about on this podcast, I believe. But that's something that we feel like is on our plate and needs to be addressed. And we are addressing that, and we are making progress. And I appreciate the opportunity to share some of that with you. But that's a big part of my day and my job. And like I said, I look forward to sharing that information.
And I'm excited to have that conversation on the show as well. Taylor, tell us what you're doing with Red Angus today.
Yep, I am a commercial marketing specialist, so I work under Kelly here, and basically my job is to interact with Red Angus breeders commercial and seed stock alike. Getting those cattle promoted, making sure that those cattle are into the homes that they need to, and they get broadcast over a vast array of prospective buyers and sellers alike. And just getting those cattle out there so that way they can be found, they can be promoted, and then take the breed to new heights as far as that's concerned. And just I'm the boots on the ground guy, if that's a layman's terms. I interact with a lot of producers every day, and just trying to get those cattle promoted and get guys try to meet some of their goals on their operation, however that may seem. I wear a different hat, it seems like, every day, sometimes a different hat every couple hours. So it's very, very interesting and fun, and it's a ever revolving door as far as that's concerned.
Well, your team certainly does a lot and is very much making an impact in the industry. So, Kelly, you already brought up the equal pricing and reds versus blacks a little bit, and we'll get into that a little later. So before we dive into that, would one of you, or kind of together, can you talk a little bit about the different opportunities for commercial cattlemen to work with you to market their cattle? Like, what does Red Angus have to offer today in that area?
Right. Yeah, Shaye, that's certainly a good launch pad into this discussion, because I think, mostly who we're dealing with, of course, are our membership at RAAA, and then, of course, a lot of bulls sold, which means that we're involved with those commercial producers and those commercial cow-calf producers. So when we're looking at that, and what do we bring to the party there, this group of people that we have, this team that we have, they're out working with feeder calf sales, our FCCP, which is our feeder calf certification program, which is talk just a little bit about that. That's a 30-year-old program. It's the oldest in the industry as far as a age source and genetic verification program. Was kind of the forerunner of those verified type programs. It's a PVP program, USDA approved, and we work through those programs to try to verify these cattle, and basically to give us more predictability in the marketplace. We want to share all the good news with these cattle. We want to be able to let the feeders know what kind of what they're looking at, or can we help to verify those cattle and that type of thing. So some of the tools, like I said, certainly this team, our tag program is very, very important. We try and promote the breed a lot, of course, and show up at these calf sales, as well as also bull sales and those type of things, to work not only with our seed stock people that's selling those bulls, but certainly most of those bulls are going to to commercial cow-calf people, which would be selling Red Angus or Red Angus cross calves heading in into the coming years. So, and that's kind of what our team does, is work with them. I think we try to cover the sales, so we can't cover them all, but certainly try and cover a big portion of them across the country, and be present, be active, do a lot of ranch visits, which I'm sure Taylor will share more about that in a few minutes. But and then put marketing programs together. We also have a lot of other things that we're currently working on. Again, working with packers all the way down to those the cow-calf producers, and trying to give them a better foothold in this marketplace and a place to go. We have a lot of really, really good ranchers that really look to us for some kind of marketing options and ways that we can help them. We're also trying to drive those calves into a lot of these feeders that are tied into the packers as we go forward here. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're kind of trying to streamline all of that. It isn't a vertically integrated program, but it is it is tying partners together, if you will. So
Creating that collaboration. Taylor, do you have more to add on that from your boots on the ground perspective?
Oh, I mean, the simplest way to say it is we can't help you unless we don't know. If we can't help you if we don't know that they're out there. One of my job and the rest of the team's job is to source those cattle and kind of know where they're at. So if we don't know, what part of the country they're at, or what sale barn they're running through, or what video auction they're going to come across the screen at, it becomes very challenging to get those cattle in front of the people that we need to. So that's, I guess, another reason why we like going on those ranch visits. Just getting some camaraderie with those producers, number one, but it's also the best way to get a real feel of what those cattle are like in the flesh. There's no it's no secret there's multiple different types of cattle out there. So if we're out there working the road and getting to see those cattle in the ranch setting, if somebody calls us, or I've had multiple guys, I've told them, I said, if you got somebody that has questions on these cattle sight unseen, have them give me a call, as kind of an unbiased type of resource. I know what those cattle are. I know what the operation's like, and I can help those guys get those cattle marketed, however that may seem.
Awesome. Okay, Kelly, now you led into it right away, and you are passionate about equal pricing for high quality red cattle compared to high quality black cattle. So do you want to talk a little bit about that price difference that's been seen in the past and your take on it today and where we're going?
Certainly, and I would give you a little bit of my personal background too. I actually came from the black side, so I can tell you, and I still raise some black cattle. So to be honest with you, I kind of see all sides of this thing and have an appreciation for all sides of that. But and in this position, in this job that I have, and in this association, when we look at the black red hide discrepancy issue that we have there. That's our biggest job at this point, quite honestly, because the industry has been somewhat turned black to the point that it's one of those things that regardless of whether they're actually Angus or whether they aren't and that type of thing, black is one of those things that's been accepted, and regardless really of quality or genetic history or anything like that. So when we really look at this and where we're going or what the possibilities are, I guess the first thing is we've been very adamant about the fact that Red Angus are Angus. Okay, that's the first thing that we've established. We've even established that, and even USDA has agreed that that is true, that Red Angus is Angus. They all come from the same stump or the same tree, the same roots if you want to, and certainly they're, Red Angus are Angus. You pull that hide back, it is Angus beef at that point, quite honestly. And when we go to packers and I go through packing plants or we talk to packers in their offices, they'll tell you that. They're adamant about the fact that Red Angus are Angus. So that's our first thing to establish here, I guess, and we have established that, I think. It's just the pathways and that type of thing sometimes have been a little adverse as far as us trying to get into some of those and open up those doors. But what we've done in a nutshell and where we're headed and how this all ties back, I would kind of share that story with you. When I started here a year ago, we took a hard look at this thing and where do we go with this? Again, we need to go to the packers and start our way down, create that vacuum or that pull through for this premium products that we have in these Red Angus cattle. And in doing that, like I said, we've established the fact that Red Angus are Angus, and then we basically have gone to these packers and asked them, we were not going to be going into CAB. We don't own CAB. CAB's done a phenomenal job of marketing beef, and they're owned by AAA, and certainly that's they've done their diligence in their 40 years of putting that program together and that type of thing. We're not trying to tear that down, have no desire to, no need to. So what we have done is most packers, when we go and we talk to the packers at their place and we look at their programs, almost every packer, if not every packer, has multiple brands of other Angus beef brands, okay? And they're premium brands. Many of them are CAB overlays, as we would call them. They would be identicals. They'd be lookalikes. They're exactly the same thing, but they do not go into a CAB package. They're typically their brands that they're growing, and in many cases, they're growing rapidly, okay? I think the packer has a desire really to grow those brands, and those brands fit us, okay? In many cases, we can put Red Angus right into those brands. When they peel that hide off, they can put blacks and reds right together there, okay? So when we look at that and we've gone in and asked those those packers, and I'm talking about from the highest level packers and the big four, quite honestly, all the way down to some mid-size and some smaller packers. Many of them have been packing that CAB product. I don't blame them for that. I would be doing the same thing. But in reality, they have a desire and an appetite there to also put Red Angus in those. They just didn't know exactly how to do that. We've actually worked with a lot of those packers on their USDA paperwork, if you will, their G schedules and those kind of things that have to be approved by USDA. We've actually done some work with them directly to try to get those in position where they could put Red Angus into their Angus brands, okay, and effectively do that. That's our pathway to be able to get that red black hide issue out of the way, start getting equal pricing, and we see that in the future, as we're going to talk about a little bit later. We've already got a major commitment, and I would tell you that we have others in our pocket that we can't announce yet, okay, that are coming down the pike.
So what you're saying is the feeders and the packers, and they recognize that Red Angus genetics were high quality. They were Red Angus is Angus. They recognized that. But where they needed the support, the kind of holdup was the branding program or getting those cattle into the right program on their end.
Right, exactly. And so let me finish that discussion, I guess, if you will, too. And yes, and as we've opened those doors and had those discussions, there's a lot of interest from those packers in doing that. And like I said, some of them are opening the doors to those opportunities. How does that tie back to the cow-calf guy or to the commercial cow-calf producer? If we create that demand, obviously, if we can get equal pricing at the fats level or at the finished cattle level, then obviously that will drive those buyers or those feeders into paying more money or paying equal money at the livestock market or on the video sale or direct trade or whatever the case may be from those ranches that are selling those feeder calves into those feeders. And the thing that has held us back at that level has merely been the fact that we couldn't get equal money for our fats at that point. So once we do that, and that's what we're making great progress on, once we do that, then that works its way back down to those feeders buying, the feedlots buying feeder calves in these sale barns and video auctions and that type of thing. They have an appetite or a desire then to pay equal money for those cattle. So that's kind of where we see it going. And then, of course, that'll trickle back down to, I'm sure, bull prices and that type of thing, because female prices, because if we're getting more money at the top, it's going to be a pull through, it's going to be a trickle down effect, and it's going to work its way back down and cause those feeder calf prices to bring equal money as well. So,
and I've always found this topic interesting. Yes, because I grew up on a Red Angus seed stock operation, but actually my first memories were with our commercial black cows. My dad grew up raising Black Angus, and that's actually what my parents started with before they made the switch. And it wasn't all that long ago that they finally sold the last of their commercial cows, and it wasn't because they were good cows. It's just they didn't have time to calve 2 times a year. And so it was always interesting to me because I always saw the quality in both sides of it. And the other side of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the United States, are we the only country that has 2 separate associations for Reds and Blacks?
Yes,
because I know Canada is together.
Right. Australia and New Zealand are together. Canada's together. We're the only country that has 2 different associations representing what really is blacks and reds are equal. I mean, again, they're born from the same roots. They come from the same origin, and one of them is red and one of them is black. That's basically the difference there. So, yeah.
Okay. Hey folks, are you looking to achieve more with your ranch in 2025? Introducing Move the Ranch Forward, a goal-setting guide designed specifically for ranchers. This practical PDF helps you set meaningful goals, create actionable plans, and stay on track even when the unexpected happens, which we know is often in ranching. It includes templates, strategies, and prioritization cheat sheets to make sure you're always moving forward. Ready to make real progress on your ranch? Download Move the Ranch Forward today at casualcattleconversations.com. Okay. Well, Kelly, unless you have more to add on to this topic, I know there's been some buzz around the sustainable beef plant, and that was a hot topic at the national convention here a month or so ago. So do you want to kind of talk about what all that buzz is about?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm so happy to talk about this simply because, and the timing on this is really, really good. I think sustainable beef plant, which is currently under construction in North Platte, Nebraska. Sustainable beef plant will be opening, and their plan is to be opening in April, which means that they're getting their pipelines and everything filled up here as far as getting all their feeders and everything in line, and they're going to have, I think 30 to 50 kind of preferred feeders. It's going to feed most of the cattle that's going into that to that plant. But this plant's going to be a little bit different. We've worked with Mr. Mark Nelson there a lot on this, talked to him a lot about this plant and their needs and their procurement needs there, and he's the head of procurement there. So that's where they have to start. Construction guys are very busy, and Mark's extremely busy trying to put this whole program together. He's currently working on his grids and that type of thing for these cattle. But this thing's a little bit different in the fact that they're probably tied a little bit more to an end user, and the fact that they're gonna have a big player involved, and probably one of their biggest customers will be one of the big retailers in this country, and so they're kind of tied to them. And as far as what they're doing and our conversations and what we foresee in the future, first of all, they've given us quite a lot of information of how they're going to operate and all that type of thing. They will not be packing CAB, at least at this point. That's what they've decided. So that knocks out the red hide issue in a lot of cases, because as those cattle come into that and they're processed into that, they don't have to keep the cattle separated as much and that type of thing. They don't have to indicate which ones are reds, which ones are blacks. They just want to indicate whether they're Angus or not, okay? Because that's predominantly how they're going to be marketed. They're going to be marketed as extremely high quality Angus beef in these retailers, and it will not be CAB branded products. So with that, the red and the black hide becomes much, much less of an issue, okay? And that has a lot to do with logistics in the plants and all that type of thing. But what they've told us at this point is they will be paying, and they've already allowed us to announce this at our national convention, and certainly a lot since then, but they've already announced that they will be paying equal money for reds and blacks. Their grid will show that, and the way that they're going to be procuring cattle. Again, we're going to be on a level playing field. So we see this as kind of the first shoe to drop, or the first domino to fall, however you want to say that, in the industry. And we think there's going to be many more to come. There are a few other things that I guess I would tell you a little bit about sustainable that I feel very comfortable with. They've also told us that they're a very, very futuristic plant. It's a new plant. They're going to be doing things the modern way, and they're going to be thinking very modern. And so one of the things that they've done there as well, they're going to be an EID only plant, which I think is very important. As we talk about our tagging programs, and we do have EIDs in our FCCP programs, but they're going to be an EID only plant, and they will also have a sustainability survey that they will ask the producers to fill out. And I think that ties back to their retailers and them wanting to be, in the right place in the marketplace and do the right things, both for the cattle business as well as our environment, and for the retailers and for the end user. They want that end user to have tremendous confidence in the products that are coming through sustainable beef. Thus the name, sustainable beef, okay? And so they are going to ask the producer for a sustainability survey. And in return for that, their intent, at least at this point, is that I believe that they intend to try to also provide carcass data back to that producer. It may have to work back through the feeders because that's where the cattle is going to be gone to. But their intent is to get that information out of that plant and to share that, which is kind of a cool thing, kind of a different philosophy. They're going to be a little more transparent, I think, than a lot of plants and a lot of people in our industry today. That's kind of been a taboo thing because, if we share that information, then, we don't know if we can get those cattle bought next year. They might be worth a lot more if they really cut well and kill well. So they're taking a little different approach to that. again, a little more transparency and a little more on the partnership mentality, I think. And so along with all that, they've been great to work with from our standpoint, and really, really look forward to working with them. They have some other things that I can't share at this point that they are working on with us as well that will broaden their possibilities, I think, as well. Some of it has to do with some of our crossbreeding standards and those type of things too. So maybe we can share that in another session. So,
Well, that would be fun to talk about, and thank you for that update. Now, what type of producers, who can get involved, who can send their cattle through to sustainable beef to get involved in this process?
okay, good point. And right now, that's becoming more and more clear every day. I mean, obviously, this is October, and we're talking here in October the 16th, and their intent is to open in April. So like I said, they're starting to get their inventory in line, particularly with feeders and that type of thing. They are working with a select group of feeders. Again, 30 to 50 feeders kind of in their part of the world at this point. But those people are going to have a tremendous appetite, I think, for feeder calves, and certainly we will be working with them to try to get as many Red Angus calves into those feedlots as possible. I do not have that feeder list yet, but I intend to have that, and they're going to provide that list to us in the next few days, forthcoming here. And our intent there is to contact all those feeders, work with them. They know what we're going to do, and our intent there. So our team in the field, if you are a cow-calf producer, or if you would like to talk with someone about how to get calves into the sustainable beef program, I'd say anyone on our team, or I would certainly share my phone number with you, or my email address with you. I don't know if you can share this at the end of this, but I would offer that, because we want to talk to you about these things. We do. We feel like that we can place a lot of Red Angus calves, high quality Red Angus calves in there. And going forward, I would also put out a bit of a call here for our tag program, and the fact that, and I know we have some producers say, well, I've done the tag program, and maybe the last few years it hasn't really given me a premium on my calves. And I'd be the first one to admit that. Probably the last 2, 3, 4 years, it hasn't made that much difference on pricing on your calves. But we do feel like that the future is in a verified program like that. Most of these packers we talk to, and including Sustainable, certainly like that program. In the future, they would really like those calves to all be tagged, FCCP tagged calves, because they know more about those calves. They can tell a better story with those calves. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about telling a story in the retailer and that type of thing. That tag program that we have, and the 30-year history of that, tells a story. It tells a story, and it tells a story about what we've done and the data that we've collected and the predictability in these cattle, unlike anything really in the industry. So I would encourage anyone listening to this, if you're raising Red Angus calves, or you're thinking about it, or if you're using Red Angus bulls and you have half blood 50% Red Angus calves, please talk to us about the tag program. That tag cost is no more expensive than what you pull off the shelf at the local co-op. Okay, we do not charge for the program. We do charge a little bit for the tags. Of course, we try to recoup our costs, and we're not making money on the tag program. It's just a good source of high quality cattle that we have some predictability on. We really see that tag program growing in the future, even more so than it has, because we think that that's really, the packer really likes that idea. And all the conversations with packers that we've had, they think that's an incredible idea. They like that. If we can find enough of those cattle to feed this monster, we'd love for them to all be tagged calves. So it's going to be much more important going forward than it really has been in the past few years, quite honestly. And I would say that about any cattle in the market today. If it's black cattle, red cattle, whatever the case may be, a program like this is going to be very important going forward, we feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And recently I had Skylar Moore with Joplin Regional on, and that was something he talked about, was the importance of tagging programs, and basically reputation first, but on top of that, any extra information on a set of calves is valuable and important no matter how you're selling. And secondly, to add on to that, I would also encourage people, like you said, of any breed, to, if they're interested in tagging programs, talk to their seed stock provider too. They can serve as a gateway to
Absolutely.
connect you with the people at the breed association, get started in the programs too. Now, is there, and maybe I missed it and you already said it, is there an expected open date for sustainable beef? I know that shifts with construction. That's always the question everyone wants to know and changes, but is there a date that they're throwing out lately for when it'll
Yeah,
open?
so what they've published and what they continue to tell us is that they say April. Now, I don't know if that's April 1 or April 30, but I'd say their target's April 1 because, as you say, construction can certainly change the calendar a bit. But their goal and their target is to start killing cattle there in April. And I'd say, and I would tell you, when we talk about sustainable, a lot of people don't know much about them or anything about them. Their target is to kill somewhere around 400,000 calves there in the first year. So they're a player. Okay, is what I'm telling you. These people are going to be killing a lot of cattle. They're going to be having an impact on the industry, and they're also forward thinkers. They're a group that's been put together that's thinking outside the box. They're thinking different ways to actually potentially own a portion of the cattle, maybe down through the stream, and not just wait until harvest day before they own those cattle. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that. That really isn't totally our department. We leave that to them and their procurement department. But they're thinking differently. They're planning to do things differently than the industry's done, for the last 50 years. And even the plant and the facility and all that. My understanding is that they've developed a better workspace or workplace for their employees as well. So they're thinking about all these things to keep them in business and keep employees there and employed and happy, and so that they can process these cattle and put out that premium product that they intend to do. So they're thinking outside the box. They're thinking very futuristic and very forward thinkers. And I think that will tie all the way back down to their procurement efforts and certainly their brands. And I know they've challenged us in many cases that how we can help them or work with them to think broader, okay, if you will. And we think pretty broad, but they challenge us a bit, and we appreciate that very much. And certainly appreciate, like I said, we've worked very closely with Mark Nelson. Appreciate his thought process and his openness to have discussions. And we have a lot of just discussions as far as thinking and, hey, would this work or would this not work, and those kind of things. And I think that this thing's going to be extremely successful. So.
Okay. Well, Kelly, I appreciate you going into detail on what's to come, and that is exciting because actually a few years ago, right when they first kind of announced and got started talking about this plant, I did have Trey on to talk about it, but that's been a long time, so it's fun to see where we're at recently with that and pull in the Red Angus side of it. Now, all of this is very exciting news, but big changes don't come without challenges either. So in your mind, what are some of those challenges that you see coming to help carry this through and make this a successful partnership?
Okay, and I would back up a little, Shaye, too, and tell you this isn't just on the sustainable beef side. This would also be with our other packers that we're working with currently. But one of our biggest challenges is we have a lot of calves, of course, that go through our tag program, and they end up in livestock markets or in video sales and those type of things. In many cases, particularly if it's the dangle tag or the panel tag that we call it, that says Red Angus on it, we love that. It's great advertisement. We like that. We still put a lot of those in. There is a bit of an issue with that tag going forward, and the fact that once those cattle are sold as feeders and then they go into feedlots, in many cases those tags get cut out. Let's just be honest about that, because they put them in there. The feedlots like to put their own tag in so that their pen riders can tell when the cattle came in, who owns them, who, what pathway they're on, that type of thing. Are they NHTC? Are they, whatever the case may be, so that they can kind of see the history there in that tag. And so a lot of times our panel tags get cut out. EIDs don't in most cases, and it is unlawful to cut them out. I wouldn't say no one ever cuts one out, but quite honestly, they don't get taken out nearly as often, okay? They might put a tag in there with them, but the reason that I say that and the reason that I'm concerned about that as much as anything is one of our greatest challenges is this, is knowing where these red calves go once you sell them off the farm. Once they go to the livestock market or on a video sale, one of our greatest challenges as a team and as a marketing team is to be able to know and track those cattle going into the feeders, and what feeders do they go to. That information isn't always shared with us, particularly from livestock markets and that type of thing. We work with a lot of those. We know where there's quite a few cattle, but when we have big packers, and quite honestly, we have a couple of the big packers today that would like to take 500 to 1,000 head of those reds probably a week into their plants as a test market and put them at the end of a run on a particular day or that type, kill them all together in one group. But we don't, in many cases, we have a hard time supplying those cattle in an even stream, I guess, if you will. Or if we're going to try and supply 500 to 1,000 in one group, many cases it's very hard to find those cattle because they may be in feed yards and we know they are somewhere. We don't know exactly where they are. So we've been contacting feed yards. We're getting a little better handle on that, but that's part of the reason that tag program is so important, to leave that tag in there, and also for you to share information with this team, and certainly with myself, as far as where those cattle are. If you're a feeder and you're feeding Red Angus calves today and you're hearing this, reach out to us, please. Reach out to us. Call me. Okay, we'd love to hear from you. We're putting a list together and a group together that we'll be able to find those cattle going forward and identify those feeders that are feeding Red Angus on a regular basis, so that we can find those pens of fat cattle ready to go there. And if you're a seed stock person and you know where the calves out of your bulls are going and where they're being fed, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know that. If you're a cow-calf person, we need your help following those cattle. If you're a feeder, let us help you try to market those cattle, okay? That doesn't mean we can always get you more money, or that but we cannot work on things that we do not know about. That's the big message here, I guess, if you will. We need help finding those cattle to help you market those and get them into those packers and into these programs that we're developing. So very important that you understand that, and that we, like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, our ears are open wide. Okay, so.
All right. Well, we have talked about a lot today. We've talked, and especially, what you just touched on, making sure people know about your cattle, getting in contact with breed association, your seed stock supplier, building those connections so that your cattle can be seen by the right people, the importance of tag programs, and all that's available there. What final thoughts do you have to share before we wrap up today?
I would just tell you this. I think if you haven't detected the bit of optimism in our voices today between Taylor and myself, then we've been very remiss in this whole podcast today, okay? Because I think the future of this breed and the future of where we're headed here, we're right on the cusp of something really, really large, okay? Really, really big, I believe. So, and I think the optimism is just unparalleled as far as what we see going forward. I think it's we're very excited about that. The possibilities are opening up. We get new challenges and new opportunities almost daily, okay? And part of that has to do with inventory. We know that inventory in the marketplace is down. These packers are looking for product. They're looking for cattle. It's just a matter of us continuing to develop those pathways, get these cattle in the right places at the right time, open them up, and try to get that top money for those cattle if we can. So that's the thing, I guess, that I would share with you as much as anything. We want you to be optimistic. Cattle prices are good. Obviously, you should be on top of the world at this point anyway, but with that, we want to be able to get you even money for those cattle. We want you to take these red calves and top that market and still have that unbelievable, most favored Red Angus cow in your pastures at home that we all know does such an unbelievable job for you. So that's kind of the message that I'd certainly like to leave you with. Optimism abounds, I guess, if you will, in this thing. And at least that's the way I see it. That's the way I read it. And certainly that's kind of been our approach, because we see a tremendous future in this thing. The last 10 years, this breed's grown like crazy, okay? I mean, it's grown like crazy. And we hear every day people that say, Well, it's kind of turning red in my part of the country.
Well, and what an amazing message to share about being optimistic about the future of the industry and the commercial cow-calf space as well, and really all segments. Taylor, what final thought would you like to share?
I mean, I think Kelly wrapped it up extremely well. There's something that we talk about quite a bit about, obviously the Red Angus cow is kind of a superpower when we look at it there out on the range. And in the podcast that me and Corey have, that's usually the thing that everybody leads in on. The thing that they love most about the Red Angus breed is that female. But then with some of these things that like we discussed today, it's something that me and Kelly also, talk about here and there is we want to be that breed where we can say we truly do it all. And that's something that we're striving for. We have the maternal thing down. Those cattle are so good. And those steer counterparts have been having a lot of success. But with some of these breakthroughs, like what Kelly has talked about today, is sure putting us on track to have that all around, do it all type of mentality for this breed for sure.
Well, awesome. And to those of you who are out there listening, I will include links and emails in the show notes so that you can either directly contact Kelly or Taylor or anyone from the Red Angus breed as well. So all of that will be in the show notes for resources. And like Taylor said, the association has a podcast too that he's a part of. So once you're done listening to this, go check out Red Angus Remarks if you want some more information about Red Angus and why it has the industry's most favored female. But with that, happy ranching, folks.